this
Yeah.
making sense? All right. All right. Welcome to our third episode of Sooner Sports Chat, where the fans get to talk about the sports they love. I'm Shannon Danielle.
I'm Troy.
Can you believe we're on episode 3 already?
Yeah, I know.
It's
I
really,
can't believe it.
It's really exciting for me.
Yes.
I will be excited for episode 33. 3 down, 30 to go.
Yep.
We've got this. So first, we're going to talk about that OU Texas game, because I'm sure that's what most people would like to hear about after what all went on during that game. So what did you think about that game?
It was bad.
It really was. It was bad on both sides of the field. I'm going to give it to the defense. The defense was really pulling as hard as they could.
They played hard, but they can't be out on the field all 4 quarters.
No, they really can't, and you can't expect to win if you just have a defense. And also, when I looked up the stats, how do you think, you've played football in school and you've played against other guys, we had less than a 20% average on our weight against them. Our average at Sooners was the highest weighted player on our team was only about 20 pounds under their average. We had a 20 pound lower than what them. I don't think they were used to playing against that heavy of guys.
Right.
So playing yourself, do you think that makes a difference?
Yeah, it do make a difference, but I do think that Brent Venables is trying to bring in people that has the size and fits his philosophy of defense. I do know that some defensive linemen is right at that 300 mark.
Oh, we have some, but on average,
on average, not many.
On average, when you're playing against a team that has 20 pounds on you, you're not used to playing that rough of ball.
Right.
I know that 20 pounds difference in my own weight makes a huge
difference.
Yes, so I can't imagine playing against a lineman that's 20 to 40 pounds heavier than me, and you don't even practice against someone that big.
You're exactly right.
So how are you expected? I mean, that's literally, it's kind of like putting Little League against high school. That's how I felt watching them.
Yes, they definitely got to get in the weight room in the off season, bulk up, and get stronger. So.
Yeah, that was one of my big takeaways, is the fact that Texas averaged on their line, they were 311 pounds as their average, and that's over 20 pounds.
That's how they're succeeding right now.
Yeah, but if you wanted to come into the SEC, that's a smart move for Texas to recruit those big guys.
Exactly.
Because it really paid off.
And OU didn't do it until like a year before.
Yeah, so there's still room to grow. There's still room to improve. Just like us, by next season, I'm hoping that we're a much better show, a much better podcast. But I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. We'll have to see. So, do you think that putting Arnold in would have really made a difference in that Texas game?
No, I don't think it would have made a big enough difference. I do feel like Hawkins was the right person at that time, because he did beat Auburn on the road. So they had confidence in him.
And I like that he was able to read once they started reading him to change up some things.
Exactly.
So I was shocked.
It was just too late at the end. So.
Yeah, I was shocked, but I don't think that it was necessarily the wrong call.
Yes.
What do you think going into the South Carolina game that we both got to go and attend? We got to sit really close to the stage, or not stage. Well, it felt like a stage. We got to sit. We were only 20 seats up. We were right there with the recruits. And so for us, it was really an interesting game, but that game Texas ended in a score beating us. What did they beat us? 3-34?
Yeah, it was 34-3 Texas.
And then South Carolina, we didn't do much better.
Yes, our offense, gosh, they're horrible. Literally. It was a disaster.
I hate to say that about them, but honestly, it was not what I was expecting out of Oklahoma.
And when everybody says that's the worst offense they ever seen, I agree. It was the worst offense, and it has been the worst offense I have ever seen since I've been an OU fan or whatever.
Since the statistics, I was listening to the statistics, and it seems like this is basically the worst in my lifetime.
Yes.
And that's a long way to really...
Right. And our defense, they did enough to win the game. South Carolina only got one offensive touchdown. Everything else was off for turnovers.
And what do you think about the fact that they fired the offensive coordinator that night?
Yeah, they had to make a change, and I think Brent Venables knew that. I think he probably knew that in the Texas game.
I think Brent, I will give credit. I have no opinions in negative form against him.
Right.
I think that he's doing a good job. I can't wait to see
He
him.
has changed that defense because they are pretty. It sucks because we're wasting a defense that now they're really good. All these other years when we didn't have a good defense, we had a good offense, and now we have a really good defense, and we're not. It's just wasting away.
Yeah, we're not performing up to our standards. So let's bring that in since we've brought up Texas, and Texas was. I feel that they were a little bit overly confident after beating us so bad going up against Georgia. So how did you feel watching that Texas-Georgia game?
I think that Texas thought they had it in the bags, and I think that the media is rat poison, like Nick Saban says. The media is going to feed you, and sometimes the players feed into that.
Yeah.
And so.
But Texas was ranked number 1, and so they were going up against, at that time, number 3 Georgia.
Yes.
And then, so they just had that confidence. We just stomped OU.
Yeah.
This is we got our hat back, and that's the first. They've only had it twice in the last 6 years. This is now twice in 6 years.
We dominated Texas, literally, in the last 10 years.
And so they, this time, were thinking that they came up against Georgia, but Georgia had a weight class that is similar to Texas.
Yes.
So Texas wasn't playing against some little-bodied teams as they were before.
Georgia is a great team. Kirby Smart, you can't leave him out of nothing. He's the defense in Georgia. They're healthy. They have wide receivers. They have running backs. They have the size. So Georgia's just a great team. And going in, I actually picked Texas. I actually picked Georgia to beat Texas because it's hard. It's hard because Georgia, I think, could probably go to the
Georgia eats. Georgia, but after I watched the Georgia-Alabama game, even though Alabama came in and won, I was thinking Georgia's going to end up making it to bowls no matter what. Like, Georgia's a team.
They're going to make it to the playoffs, 12-team playoffs. They're going to make it in.
I can't wait to see how the results are this week because right now we have 6 teams all with 6-1.
Right.
So this next game will be deciding on some of that to break up the monotony of who's going to be actually number 1.
Right.
So what do you think that if Georgia actually had to play Oklahoma, how do you think that would have went?
It'll be a slaughter, honestly.
that's how I feel.
I love my Sooners now. Don't get me wrong. I love my Sooners to death. I will root for them. I'm a diehard Sooner fan.
We've been there every game for seasons, but
I'm always going to root for them, even though they lose, even though how bad they are. I'm still going to root for my Sooners, no matter what happens.
Absolutely. Do you think that Texas will take back number 1 now that they've been beat?
No, I do not. I do not think that. It'll be Georgia. I think it's going to be. Right now it's Oregon.
Oregon is
Georgia.
number 1,
I think Georgia's number 2.
Georgia is number 2, and Georgia's ranked number 1 if you just do the SEC.
Right.
So, shout out to Oregon.
Yes.
I mean, I have to bring up a little blooper. They did run over their duck, and the mascot fell down, and his hat came off, and I was like, "You ran over your duck."
Well, that's bad. It's not as bad as the schooner flipping over a few years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. That was crazy.
So let's bring up the Georgia and Alabama game, which ended in 34-41. But we watched this game, and this happens to be my favorite game that I've seen all season.
I think that was one of my favorites of the season too.
It really was. At the beginning, Alabama came in the first quarter. They put all that on the board.
Yes.
But then Georgia is slowly
stepping back and coming back
But then, unfortunately, and Georgia they got shut down.
Yeah.
They were 0-21 at the end of the first quarter, or not.
I thought they had it in the bag. So I don't know. I was like, uh-oh.
Yes, but then Ryan Williams came back with a 75-yard touchdown, and that boy is 17 years old. Like, he is a
coming out of high school,
dominating beast against, and we were just
D1 players too, defensive backs that's been in the program for 4 years.
And we just talked about the weight class. He's not a huge guy.
He's not, 170 maybe 160.
So to be playing against 300 and something pound guys
and defensive backs
and to move like he moves.
Right.
I saw that LeBron James and Serena Williams are also repping
Yes.
the fact of he's an amazing player. He's someone to watch in the future.
I think that he's going to be one of the best wide receivers coming out in the country in probably 10 to 15 years. That's how I see.
I definitely
Yeah,
see him
yeah.
making an NFL
Yes,
draft.
yeah.
Where he'll
Top five.
go.
Easily top 5.
Definitely.
Him and Jeremiah Smith out of Ohio State. He's really, really, really good too.
And I like that, even though it got kind of controversy with the kill everyone face tape, I like that has that mentality, even
Yeah.
at 17.
17 years old.
He said that he wasn't nervous about going into that game because he
Wow.
was so well prepared, that he had been so well trained.
Not many kids can do that.
No, and especially that
You're at that LeBron James level when you honestly.
you are on
Yeah.
a Michael
Jordan
Jordan
level,
playing
LeBron. Yeah,
level.
yeah, yeah,
Whenever
yeah.
you were talking about
Yes.
coming out at 17, playing not professional, playing college ball against massive guys, and to be able to play like he played, I feel like that's a testament to
I'll be
what-
watching out for him. I'm also going to be watching out for him when he plays OU too. I feel
I
hopefully they got a good game plan, but we'll see.
I'm really, honestly, that game I'm nervous about because we've just had 2 shutouts, which we're going to Ole Miss. How do you think we're going to do with Ole Miss?
For one, I feel like I think we're going to lose the game, but I do feel like now that the offense got to get it together and try to put up some points.
Do you think that firing our offensive coordinator, because now we're just running with the same offensive coordinator, just our backup is going to be leading it. We haven't actually changed much.
We didn't change much at all. The tight end coach, Joe John Finley, he'll probably put a little bit of juice into the offense, since when you fire somebody, you get the team's attention.
Yep.
And it'll be a little bit better, but not so much better. It's just a deal till the 5 games of the season, until they can finally find somebody they can go out and get. And I feel like there's going to be some good ones. I feel like they need to get the best of the best. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what team they are on. Write a check and for whoever it is.
And OU has the money.
Yes.
They have and they also, one thing that's great about OU, from anyone that you've heard that's worked there, even coming down to us, the OU spirit, and I was not disappointed in Texas because being our rivalry, but they received a $250,000 fine for trashing their own field.
Texas did, yes.
OU, that is not the mentality that we
No.
have there. That's not the mentality of the students, the coaches, all the way down to
Yes.
contracted security. We treat the Palace like it's the Palace. We don't
Palace
refer
of the
to it.
Prairie.
We don't refer to it as that if we were going to trash our own stadium. So I feel like Texas not only represented themselves poorly on the field, they also, their fan base represented why there's such a rivalry for us, because
Yes.
we come in with even when we lose, when we lost to Tennessee gave back to our
Yeah, they
to our-
did. I seen that.
They
Yeah.
give back to our community because of how we treat them. And I
Right.
think that going forward, even in a losing season, how you act when you're losing says a lot about your team.
Yes, they
And-
really do.
And so to me, I will rep OU for the fact of we are at heart wanting football to be great.
Yes.
Wanting it to be great all around.
And I think that the next offensive coordinator that they get is going to either go out really well or is going to break Brent Venables in the end. That's sad, but you got to put product out there to win. You got to.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, this is a game of like, you look at softballs, we've got 4P with Patty. We have our girls in basketball
Yeah.
are in the top 10.
Top 10. I just now figured it. I just now noticed that whenever they
Tennis.
announced it.
There were a couple tennis
Yeah.
champions. We really
Golf is good there too.
Golf is good. We've got gymnastics
Yeah.
going every year.
They're always
teams.
1 and 2 all the time. They're amazing. You should go out there and
So
watch them.
I'm
softball.
really excited to see what Brent brings to the table
Yes.
next year. Who he recruits in
Yep.
and who he brings up.
The one thing they're going to have to do is pay for some offensive linemen. The offensive line needs help. 9 sacks in that game against South Carolina from different players, not just one player, different players on the defensive line.
Yes.
So
And I will, as a fan, I know that there were comments about the loyalty because of by halftime, half of our section was empty.
Yes.
And so, from a fan base perspective, I do understand that OU wants us to sit there, but those are some brutal games to watch.
We did stay there till the fourth quarter. I was like, it was hard for me to sit there.
It really is.
I sat there until the fourth quarter, so I mean, I understand what Danny was talking about, but I'm as loyal as could be when it comes to OU. You can ask anybody.
I'm a trader. I love that blue field, Boise. Give your shout outs. So I definitely became an OU fan, but I became an OU fan because of the OU spirit.
Sean Genty, I think he's gonna win the Heisman. That running back he's about to break Barry Sanders' record in the 2,000 yards. And
Boise is doing good. Like, shout outs to Boise.
Speaking of Boise, there was another guy that's from Boise, that coach, I think, there, or something like that. His name is Derek Kuttner. Oh, yeah. So
I've heard that name before, too.
So maybe Brent Venables can give him a phone call, too. So
you start calling all these teams.
The top 10 teams, too. I mean, honestly, they got to get the best
anybody you need. And so I'm going to give Troy his time to talk. What was your favorite NFL game so far this year, though?
I love the Buccaneers and the Saints and how they fought back. Baker and the Bucs, they had the game 17-0, and then Saints came roaring back, and at halftime they made the adjustments, and the Buccaneers put it on the Saints, and they won the game. So.
You can love or hate Baker.
Yeah,
I mean, you really can. He came from Sooner. You really can, but he can play ball.
Yes, and he's in top 5, and all quarterbacks. Matter of fact, they said he's head of Patrick Mahomes and some of the other stars. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
see, that's impressive because I like the Chiefs. Shout out to Taylor Swift. But watching him play makes you excited to watch ball. It's kind of like watching Michael Jordan whenever you watched him play. Like, it makes you into the game.
There's a lot of teams that gave up on Baker. The Browns. They made that huge mistake. And the Panthers. The Rams. And so
I think if Baker ended up on a team like the Chiefs, like that, not that the Chiefs are not unstoppable.
Buccaneers going to keep Baker.
I know. But again, if that somehow happened, like you want to talk about an unstoppable
but Patrick's
team,
always going to stay with Chiefs too. So
so
Patrick's good.
He is. Yeah. We'll give the credit where the credit is due. So are there any other teams, anything else we want to bring up with this? We're trying to make these episodes short and sweet so you just get little clips, but you're able to get the highlights.
College men's basketball is going to start here, I think, next week. So you guys stay tuned to that. And the women's going to...
Women's have already in their preseason. They just won a game. I think it was basketball. It was either basketball or volleyball. Again, OU dominates. It's really a school that it doesn't matter what the sport is, apart from football this season. But it really doesn't matter what you're playing. If you come to OU to play ball for any of the sports or gymnastics or things like that, you really have a chance because they really do put into their team. They put into their players. They put it all around. I'm excited to see the Thunder. So do you think Thunder will make the play? They've made the playoffs the last few years. Do you think they'll make it this year?
Yes, I do think they're going to make it in the top 6. They're not going to be in the call. They're not going to be in the play-in. They're going to make the playoffs.
I think they'll make the playoffs too. We're making an early prediction on the Thunder to make the playoffs. Sadly, you guys traded Giggity to my Bulls. I would much rather you have traded him to just about anybody else, but we'll see how that turns out. I really don't think it's going to affect.
They added the talent that they need for the Thunder, that Caruso guy from the Bulls.
Yes, they made a trade with my Bulls team, though, and I'm not really.
My Sacramento Kings. We'll see what happens.
So is there anything else before you'd like to sign off on this episode?
Well, yes. You guys, just stay tuned. We got a lot more to talk about.
We really do. And this episode will premiere November 1st. It will be the first time to see us. So you'll see all 3 episodes premiere. And then after that, we'll be on weekly. And hopefully you'll see set improvements, voice improvements, all the improvements necessary. Kind of like we're talking about for the team. We're not coming in saying that we're the best either. But we definitely have to
start. We're going to get better. We're going to do better. And I hope OU offense will do better too.
I hope that we improve all together as OU. So that would be our end of our third episode of Sooner Sports Chat, where the fans come to talk about the teams they love. Signing off, this is Shanda Danielle.
This is Troy.